Hello, my name is Marcus Ruiz-Evans, CEO of Yes California starting this year. I was president for the previous couple of years, and I've recently taken on the title of Chief Executive Officer, directing all daily operations. This is a video I had wanted to do for many, many months, and we just never found the time. It's another key piece of information explaining why Californians should have the conversation about a life raft as you're sailing around the ocean on a boat, or an insurance plan if you're going to buy a house. Why is it that we think at Yes California that having a discussion about California leaving and becoming a nation is the most reasonable thing to postulate and project for? Well, here's a little snippet of something that we found, and we've been trying to get to you for a few months. Here it is. So in January 8th, the University of California at Berkeley had two professors of law and a host talk about the January 6th coup. Many Californians view January 6th as a coup. They feel that it was, and it was the storming of the Capitol in an attempt to overthrow the federal government. Here's John Powell. He's a distinguished professor, and Ian Haney Lopez, another legal scholar. I'm not going to show you the whole video just to provide a little bit of what they're talking about. So here's some background. John A. Powell is a professor of law. He does work at the Berkeley University. Ian Haney Lopez is another professor of law, and he does work at the University of California of Berkeley. Both of them were saying that California is witnessing the destruction of America on January 6th. Let me put up a few exact quotes. So the name of the video was Storming the Capitol, Trumpism's Last Stand. That's Storming the Capitol, Trumpism's Last Stand. It premiered on January 8th by UC Berkeley. So Trumpism's Last Stand, UC Berkeley, January 8th. What they were talking about was the January storming of the Capitol and the coup that took place in the minds of many Californians. Now, what I wanted to point out was we have two professors of law who saw the January 6th coup, and this is what they said. Trump is not going away because the issues related to Trump are still here. They said that at minute 15:25 to minute 15:50. Haney Lopez says, wealthy have promoted white nationalism to have power since Reagan. Haney Lopez was saying that largely America is a racist country with the people who are entitled and white privileged promoting white nationalism, and that has led to Trump. Not that Trump exacerbated it, but this has been a long continuing coming to that point. Let's go to Haney Lopez said half of America is broken. Half of the USA people are broken. He said that at minute 49:45 to minute 50:09. What they were talking about was that if you looked at the election, Joe Biden barely won. Now, in the news, they're going to say largest vote base ever. But what they're talking about is Joe Biden really only won by like 52%, about 2% over half. And the Trump voters were somewhere around 47-48%, meaning that basically within a margin of error, half of America, after 4 years of Trump, voted again for him. So they were saying that vote by 48% shows that America is basically broken. Here's John Powell saying, hey, if half the country voted for Trump, 48% in the 2020 election, that means half of America is fundamentally broken. Here's the other professor of law from UC Berkeley completely agreeing with him that if 48% of America voted for Trump, that basically means that half of America is throwaway and broken. This is what two professors of law are saying. Additionally, it gets even worse. Haney Lopez says the Democratic Party will have to unite the country or there will be civil war. He said that back in January. We're in August, September now. There has been no unity. Everyone knows that. So does that mean this legal scholar's prediction for civil war from UC Berkeley is correct? Now would be about the time. Again, John Powell saying at minute 36:16 to 26:30 to 36:30, sorry, 36:16 to 36:30, that the vote was tied and that basically half of America voted for Trump. So the big takeaway is that these two professors are saying half of America voted for Trump, and therefore half of America is broken and is white nationalist. And because half of America voted for Trump, Trumpism is not going away. It is fundamentally the caricature or character of half of America. They also said if the Democrats did not unite the country, it would be divided and going towards a civil war. They said that 6 months ago. There has been no unity. So two professors said 2020 elections, almost half of America voted for Trump. These are broken people who are horrible and cannot reflect California values. If you need even more evidence, you can fast forward on that video to 3620 and see where they talked to the Berkeley student who was horrified to hear that the vote was tied. Again, we are talking about this video right here. Let me do a share screen. This is the video, Storming the Capitol, Trumpism's Last Stand. Here's Professor Powell, Professor Haney Lopez, and the student who was terrified 36 minutes in hearing the vote was tied. And they were talking about how the vote showed America was divided and how the storming of the Capitol showed that America was fundamentally broken, from these two professors from Berkeley. Now, here's where it gets interesting. They were saying January 6th shows that America was falling apart because it's the first time the country had a coup. They were also saying that this makes sense because half of the country was tied to Donald Trump and therefore horrible and backwards. But they've preferenced it with there's hope around the corner. And what they were talking about was Stacey Abrams. They were saying that the demography of America at this moment may show half of America supporting Trump. But in the future, we don't have to worry about half of the country voting for Trump. We don't have to worry about America as a place where government coups happen, because Stacey Abrams showed us that you can organize minorities to achieve winning elections. So both of them said that the hope of America, let me find that here. Haney Lopez talked from 2548 to 2711. Talking about the hope of the United States. And he says it's Stacey Abrams in Georgia showing that minorities can win elections by coming together. Professor John Powell also backs up the hope theory at minute 3645 to 3637, where he says, I'm sorry, that's 3637 to 3645, that America can not be discouraged because half of America voted for Trump after 4 years, and then also almost overthrew the government. But we don't need to worry about that because Stacey Abrams in Georgia shows that America's turning a corner, minorities are going to be taking over power, and everything's going to work out just fine. All we need to do is listen to Stacey Abrams and follow more of her leadership, and we can turn America around. Let me show you a little bit about what they're talking about. Make sure that's showing. Okay, so the election proved the solid South is cracking, and it could reshape America's political landscape for decades to come. This was talking about the 2020 election. Here's another one. Stacey Abrams paved the way for Democratic victory in Georgia. Here's another one. Stacey Abrams and her band of believers turned Georgia blue. Here's another one. Georgia's changing demographics could affect runoffs. So they were pointing out that a lot of the media on the liberal side is saying Stacey Abrams and the fact that Georgia went blue was because of Stacey Abrams organizing. And she was able to do that because minorities have turned a point and are going to be dominating elections. So Georgia turned blue because things have changed fundamentally, and demographics in America have changed fundamentally. And now minorities can be organized in order to take over elections and win them. Stacey Abrams is an example. So they said, these two Berkeley professors, America's broken. It can't be fixed. We're on the verge of a civil war. That's because there was a coup and half the country backed Donald Trump. That's what they said, two professors of law. Then they said not to worry, because when we look at Georgia with Stacey Abrams, we can see that demographics in America are shifting, and that everything's going to be just okay in the future because we'll organize minorities. They will be a larger percentage of the population, and we can win elections as we did in Georgia. Georgia was traditionally red, and then it flipped blue. Here's the problem. While I respect both of these professors, they're completely wrong about what happened in Georgia with the 2020 election. Let me show you. I want to make sure this is showing. So Republicans did not go out and vote in Georgia because Donald Trump told them not to and said the vote was rigged. Here's another one. Turnout dip among Republicans because of Trump. Here's another one. Okay, so these are because Donald Trump went down to Georgia and said, don't vote, and he questioned the legitimacy of an election. So you had a sitting president, for the first time ever, go to a state and tell his voting base, don't vote. That suppressed the Georgia vote. It's not that Abrams got more people to vote. It's that the Republicans told themselves to not even try very hard. And that's why that election went that way. This is not the same thing as demographics are shifting. So demographics in America are still projected that by 2045, white people will actually be a minority. That's 2045, or about 23 years from now, over 2.5 decades. Here's another one, New York Times talking about white Americans' minority population. And all of this comes down to this man, Norman Ornstein, who predicted that by 2040, when the census says white people will be an actual minority, I want to repeat a statistic I use in every talk. By 2040 or so, 70% of Americans will live in 15 states, meaning 30% will choose 70 senators. And the 30% will be older, much more white, rural, and more male than the 70% of the rest of the country. Unsettling to say the least. What he's saying is that it's going to not be until the year 2040, 2045 when white people are actually the minorities. When Georgia election races actually just go to minorities because they had better organizing. So professors and many news outlets were dead wrong when they said that Stacey Abrams and Georgia went blue, and this is a sign of a demographic shift. That demographic shift isn't going to happen for 23 more years. The reason that minorities won and flipped Georgia blue was not because of minorities, but because of white people who were told by their savior to not vote. These professors got that completely wrong. And so the point of this video is to say, people saw that Biden won 52%. People saw that 48% of the country voted for Trump in 2020 after seeing what he did. That's about half. These professors of law are looking at that and saying, oh my God, half the country is backwards. And it is so bad, we have coups overthrowing the government now. Big sign of failed state, big sign of civil war, big sign of destruction of continuity and comedy in the community. And then they said, but don't worry, because Stacey Abrams in Georgia proved that blue can win elections by organizing. And that is a completely false statement and not true and didn't happen. The Georgia election went to blue because Trump told them not to run. So if you can count on the Republican president or the top Republican nominee every single race telling his base to not run, sure, but that's happened once in the last 200 years. Why do you think that's a way to project into the future? Point is, America's broken. Half the country voted for Trump. There was a coup. Things are exceptionally destabilized. And the only point of, quote, hope that two professors could point to was completely false and not true. What this means is there is no hope in America. There is no hope that there's going to be a blue wave. Your only option is to get the hell out of America then if you want to retain your liberal values. Thank you. Take a look at the description for all of the references.